Yes, guys, welcome back. Welcome.
Here we go.
FPL is back, and I'm Danny, he's Dean, and we're here for the next hour to talk purely pretty much about FPL. We're going to be showing you our teams. We're going to be looking at fixtures, double game weeks, chip strategy. We're going to be comparing two of the game's go-to players, but you can probably only have one of them in Salah and KDB. We've got all sorts of stats. Yes, that's right. Stats on this channel as well for you today. And of course, we're going to be answering your questions. So good to see I'm 9074, Haley, Marshall, Mark, Keith, FPL River, all back with us. We've missed you.
Yes.
So yeah, it's good to be back, Dean, right? Because I've been fully in FPL mode, but probably only for the last 24 hours.
Oh, really? Yeah. It was hard. Like the World Cup fantasy, like it helped us, give us something to do, but it was nothing compared to this, was it? So hello, everyone. Thank you for coming back to the show. I'm excited. And however good the World Cup final was, there was no Erling Haaland, was there? So it wasn't that good. Like we've got that to look forward to now. Remembering what was good about the Premier League, there are a lot of things the World Cup didn't have that the Premier League does have. So let's get stuck into that later too.
Yeah, exactly. Welcome to Niall Higgins, who's in Calgary in Canada, where it's -41. Love that. I mean, we've had some cold weather in England, but that seems cold.
Niall, I mean, congrats on being alive, mate. That's incredible. That is not for me either. That is not for me.
Yeah.
No. Probably knows how to deal with it, unlike us.
Gianpaolo and Frode and Kev Mac, all with us as well. So look, first up, Dean, rather than digest what we've seen in the last couple of days with the World Cup final, which was amazing, and I'm sure later in the show we'll maybe touch on that, I want to ask you about FPL and about the fact we're going into what feels like a new season, right? Does form, because I was writing something earlier for FPL, for something that will be published later this week, I was saying it's almost like a new season. It feels like we're going into the start of a new season. So with a new season, what happened at the end of the last season kind of goes out the window. So do we take that approach where the only form we can go off is form we've seen from players in the World Cup? In terms of team form and Newcastle being a great defense and Arsenal being a great attack, the things like that kind of go out the window because we've had 5-6 weeks off.
I think some of it still sticks. There are some teams you're still not going to touch. You're still going to go all in on Man City. You've probably got a bit more belief now in Liverpool again, given that they've had a break and players like Salah have had a rest. But you start to think back. I was looking at like the last round of games, and there was like Tottenham 4, Leeds 3, and you're like, oh my god, yeah, I forgot about stuff like that. Obviously, Forest got a 1-0 win. Arsenal got that 2-0 win over Wolves that like cemented them as like top place and like to be taken seriously as title contenders. And then since then, Gabby Jesus gets a bad injury, and you're like, oh, does that change everything? So there are definitely a lot of factors to take in here, and I haven't fully taken everything on board yet. We'll see later on. We've both done a draft of what our team's going to be. Mine, I don't think will stick to as it is. And there are a couple of, certainly one rogue pick in there, possibly two. But I'm trying to manipulate my mind and just remember where we're at here. But I think Haaland's in everyone's team, isn't he?
Yeah, he's going to be the set and forget captain for everyone. But there are players like, I don't know, Martinelli, for example. I'm still flirting whether or not I lose Martinelli or keep him because Arsenal have got some tricky fixtures. No Jesus. How does that affect Martinelli's output?
Yeah.
You know, Jesus so valuable for that team's attack. I'm sure Nketiah comes in and does a job, but with the fixtures there, the only reason I think I'm probably keeping Martinelli is value tied up in him because we all got him at an absolute steal. And if I sell him now and buy him back in a few weeks' time, which might inevitably happen, you lose 0.4, 0.5. Guys, I can't wait to be showing my team very soon.
Yeah, I agree. And then there's players like Almiron too, like has had an unbelievable season. He really, really wouldn't have wanted the season to stop when it did. And now he's got to make sure that he's still in that same rhythm again. Make sure that that wasn't a flash in the pan. That is the real deal. So things like Almiron, they got Leicester away, Newcastle. Is that going to continue? Do Leicester start to fight back? Is it James Maddison that's going to be the better pick going forward? Maybe you need both. There's so much to consider. I'm so excited. Like I really am excited. Like looking ahead to the fixtures that are coming up. I'm ready for it. I'm so ready for. This is the thing. You think, oh, such a shame the World Cup's over. You're like, no, it's not. Actually, no, it's not. It's amazing because now we're going back into the Premier League. Then you've got the transfer window opening. Then the other leagues around Europe are starting as well. And then we've got 5 months where everyone's going to fight it out for the big silverware. And we know what we're in for now. Usually in the back of a World Cup, we're going to something completely fresh, completely unknown. That's not the case this time. We could use a bit of that form from the World Cup to actually help our picks here. I think it's going to be great. Where are we going to start first? What do you want to do?
Well, I've just got to acknowledge Harry is in the chat, FPL Harry, and I've got to acknowledge it because he's a Chelsea fan. Here I am in my Chelsea shirt. I saw some comments on one of Harry's posts earlier on Twitter, and I've got a feeling Harry and I have both gone for the same Chelsea midfield differential. I'll be revealing who that is, but I'm pretty sure from the comments, Harry's gone for him as well, which I'm massively impressed with. Yeah, we've both gone for RLC. Also, I think FPL River mentioned my pool table. Yeah, I'm still measuring up from the birthday gifts.
Oh, your birthday, mate.
I've got the tape measure and the hammer on the table. I've been putting up new prints. You'll see the Ciao Bello has moved up.
You got all the prints. Lovely. Do you have a good day?
That one there is Baggio in USA 94. After scoring a worldie. Yeah, it's great.
Nice. Oh, good.
Cool. Got Ronaldo there on the wall. That's the famous Ronaldo print, with his feet are sort of blurred.
Very cool. Very cool. I like that.
I'm still planning where it all goes, mate. I'm spending hours. I'm spending more time on that wall than on my FPL team.
I don't believe that for a second, mate, because I've never known anyone put so much time into this.
Oh, and I'm also going to mention, because Harry asked me, did I meet Mr. Beast? I've been talking to Mr. Beast's team. So for those of you that don't know, Mr. Beast is the world's biggest YouTuber. He's got more subscribers than Netflix, this guy. He's like mid-20s, yeah. And he does, you've got to check him out, Dean. We're showing our age.
I've heard of him. No, I have heard of him. I
didn't know he was either.
I didn't know who he was, yeah.
Yeah, so he's huge. And he's got more subscribers than Netflix.
But that is absurd. How many subscribers does Netflix have?
I don't know, but he's definitely got more. I don't know. He's the third. He's something like, his TikTok channel is something like the third biggest in the world. Yeah, he's just huge, and he's done a video for Street Child United. So I was talking to his team about that, and it got he did it on his philanthropy YouTube channel, which is slightly smaller, and it still went off, and had 1 million views within hours.
Yeah. Oh, nice one.
Pretty cool. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. It's good to see some healthy numbers in the chat, and make sure you're liking and subscribing. Before we show you fixtures, before we do a KDB and Salah deep dive, and before we show you my team and Dean's team, first up, we're just going to have a little look at some fresh off the press news. Dean, I was thinking with this feature today, it should be kind of because, not a huge amount has been happening in terms of our teams and our players. But what we do know is some of the teams, for example, have come back late. So how it will affect them. The teams that got knocked out in the quarters, though, that's where the real FPL interest is. So your England players, your Portugal players, for example. Do we think that was the perfect timing? Is wrong. Ideally, they don't have a World Cup. But that's a good enough time to go. Everyone that played in the quarterfinals, come Boxing Day, they've still had a little break. They've still had a little bit of pre-season. They should be good to go, right? We're not worried about quarterfinal players.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think if you're in the quarters, then you're definitely playing this first round of games back. Semis, and obviously it's difficult from that point onwards because you've just been involved in the games at the weekend and you're not going to figure. But this is why. So I know he's not an FPL asset, but like Harry Maguire, for example, he's going to get a chance in that Man United team now because Varane and Lisandro Martinez have been at the World Cup in this final weekend. And United got Nottingham Forest first game back. Harry Maguire had a good World Cup. It's the perfect opportunity for someone like that to make the most of an opportunity. But I guess from United point two, you'd say Bruno Fernandes, that's probably, there'll be somebody like that you might look for. I think that if you dive into issues that have cropped up from the World Cup. There are things like Richarlison. Tottenham have to get their heads around this. I mean, he was already having injury problems before the World Cup, so he hasn't really been seen that much for Tottenham since like October. Really, he's had a few minutes, but not full game. And now he's out for another 6 weeks, Richarlison, which is massive to him. It's a huge blow because of the confidence he built. But it's a big blow to Tottenham too, because they were already thinking of buying an attack-minded player. And now they've got to think, well, what kind of a forward are we actually going to get in here? Is it an attacking midfielder or is it an actual forward? So that'll be interesting for sure. You talk about like England players who might figure, well, there was an England player who thought he should have been in the squad and didn't get in there. It was Reece James. He felt if James Maddison was being given the benefit of the doubt, then he should have been given the benefit of the doubt. And he wasn't. And ultimately, James Maddison didn't see him in it anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But Reece James has had that whole month to get fit. I see no reason why Reece James shouldn't be back for this first games. We haven't really had an update on it yet. There's been hints that he is okay.
He scored a good goal in training the other day. It went round the Chelsea socials.
Oh, did it?
And he was full training, which was good to see.
There you go. So Chelsea, a home match with Bournemouth. I've got Reece James in my squad at the moment, waiting for an update. But that seems like one I'll probably be very interested in. So there's plenty going on. I think that we've got to assess, obviously, in the next few days who's coming back. We've got to start assessing the friendlies. It's really helpful that we've got some Carabao Cup games.
Yeah.
I know that they're typically difficult to gauge, but this is like a really strong friendly match, basically, isn't it now? Especially the Liverpool City game. So they're actually worth watching these because we'll see pretty much the strongest lineups, won't we?
Yeah, it's great. And then we've had a couple of friendlies and some competitive football before Boxing Day is going to be so welcome. Matty in the chat mentions Kulusevski, and obviously with you mentioning Richarlison, Dean, like Kulu is one player that obviously hasn't had a World Cup. How do we think, not just with Kulu, look, 8 million, by the way, his points per game is really strong. He's going to be starting all these football matches for Spurs. The fixtures are okay. There is a double game week potentially in there as well. But how do we think with players like Kulusevski and obviously Salah and Haaland, but your likes of Mahrez is as your Mahrez is as well. It's a mouthful. How do we think no World Cup affects these players? Because sometimes we see off the back of a pre-season going into game week 1, for example, players aren't fully up and running. So we could see those that have been at the World Cup have a little bit of the edge in terms of being completely on it. Maybe in 4, 5, 6 game weeks time, they start to flag, and those that have had a complete rest are coming to the fore. But do we think we could see a slow start from some of those players that have completely, I say had time off, they've all been training, but they've not had competitive 90 minutes?
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I don't think it matters now because I don't think the break has been long enough. I think that most of them have been back in properly for the last 2 weeks anyway. A lot of them have been playing quite a few friendly matches, either behind closed doors or otherwise. And I honestly don't think it matters. I mean, because you think even some of those players that have been at the World Cup, say Maddison, they haven't actually been playing. So what's really the difference between you being back in England and training for the past month to being James Maddison, who was at the World Cup and didn't play anyway? Obviously, there are some players at the World Cup who you'll think, okay, well, he seems to have picked up form, this and that and the other. I see Mark saying, Ten Hag said part of the deal for players going to the World Cup was they're straight back into club football. I mean, it's one thing to say that. It's quite another. I mean, if you saw the state of Rafael Varane in that World Cup final, I could barely breathe by the end of it. So, yeah, it's a fair enough message initially, but like, is that player in the condition by the 20? When do they play? I think they might play on the 28th. Not sure. Either way, whatever it is, United come back. Is he ready? Like actually ready, mentally as well as physically? Same for anyone who won the World Cup with Argentina. Like, that high is going to be such a high, and some will be fine to come back in, I'm sure. But, you know, Julian Alvarez, because he's so young, like there might be a temptation to be like, get him straight out there, like get him straight out. But we'll have to wait and see because that is a difficult one to weigh up for all the managers.
Yeah, United centre-backs, of course, both first-choice centre-backs featured. I think the Sandro Martinez didn't get off the bench. He went with Petzela instead, but late on. But yeah, they're both going to likely miss that 27th fixture. So Maguire and Lindelof back to old times for those two, just for 1 week only, maybe. But we saw a question earlier about yellow cards, and I just want to touch on yellow cards. So there's a fair few players on 4 yellows, and guys, 5 yellow cards means a ban up into the 19th game week for that team. So the 19th game week for most of those players will be game week 20 or 21, right? So the only notable kind of popular FPL assets on 4 yellows at the moment. Harry Kane, that's a big one. You don't want the double game week potentially coming up. You don't want him missing one of those. Mitrovic, same again, has a double coming up. He's on 4 yellows, and the way Mitrovic plays, you wouldn't back against a yellow card in the next couple of weeks. Saliba, he's on 4 yellows, and Schär at Newcastle as well. Most of the other names on there aren't really FPL options or popular FPL picks, but just bear that in mind with your thinking. I'm still going Mitrovic, for example. That's not going to put me off, but is worth noting. So make sure you've got that first sub ready, or your money in your bank if you want to sell an upgrade, for example. And of course, there's some double game weeks, which we're going to look at very soon. We're also going to be showing our teams very soon as well. Loads of questions in the chat. Thank you for the love, guys. Make sure you're hitting that like button and, of course, subscribing. We're doing these streams. We're back to a normal schedule where possible, Mondays and Fridays at 7. Next week will be a little bit different with all of the fixtures up in the air. I'm 1974 says about that Man United attack. And Man United is a team I just want to feature on, seeing as we've been there. The fixtures for United are ridiculously good. They have Forest at home, then it's Wolves away, then Bournemouth at home. Those 3, Forest and Bournemouth at home and Wolves away, is a lovely set of 3. Then it does go City and Arsenal. But what we saw before the break was Man United keeping some clean sheets. And I look at Dalot at 4.8, and I look at Luke Shaw at 4.8, and even David De Gea at, I think, 4.9. I think there's 2 from 3 of those I think will probably end up being in my team. And then, of course, Rashford 6.7. Martial is now an option.
Yeah.
I like United for those fixtures. I don't think I'll stick with them long, but I like them. And United players had the best World Cups. Look at their players at the World Cup. They all performed.
Yeah.
Like Casemiro, Bruno, the guys I've just spoken about, all had good World Cups.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I'd be scared of is I thought this at the start of the season, and they lost 2-1 at home to Brighton, and they lost 4-0 away to Brentford. So that scares me a little bit, because I still don't think those inconsistencies are totally gone from this Man United team. I'd like to think that they've come quite a long way from game week 1 and 2 by now, but you never know. You never know how they're going to get off again. And it's one thing looking at Forest, Wolves, and Bournemouth on paper and saying, okay, this looks good, but you've got a Forest team who have just spent the past month reassessing where they're at and coming up with plans, and they ended on a win. Wolves, new manager, totally new outlook, new game plans. That'll be a home match that they look to win, a fixture which they've certainly won before with big support. And Bournemouth at home looks easy, actually won't be as easy as we think. So it's so difficult. It's so difficult, because I agree with you. On paper, it does look great. And I was thinking the same. I was going through the Man United assets and thinking, who am I actually going to get here? Because like Bruno Fernandes is expensive. Do I trust it? Marcus Rashford, do I really trust him? We'll see the Man United player that I did bring in a bit. We'll have to see if he sticks. But yeah, that's just a bit of a gamble.
I love a little bit of a giveaway. None of the names mentioned is the guy Dean's gone for, so I look forward to touching on that later. Dalot injury, Mitrovic injury. We've got questions on that. Dean, maybe on Friday we have a little injury roundup.
Yeah, I doubt Mitro will be missing. I doubt it. I mean, he's just played in all the games for Serbia after having his injury problem before the World Cup. He didn't figure against West Ham at the weekend, but hadn't been that long out of the World Cup really. Be surprised if Mitro was still missing for that game. Dalot is being assessed right now. It sounds like he should actually be okay from one thing I heard, but again, we'll find out in a couple of days' time.
Yeah, I think so. Oh, Mark thinks you may have gone for Anthony. Nuclear thinks maybe Martial. Loving this little tease. John Cahill, thank you for acknowledging the fact that I hate United, because it's true. But yeah, FPL. Love is blind. FPL is blind. I can go United when I think they're hot, and I think they're going to be hot for 2 of those 3 games, and I want a piece of the action. Their players are
Yeah, by the
affordable.
way, though, Garnacho at 4.3 could be a great person to get in, because like the impact that he made, obviously in that last game for United at Fulham, coming on, scoring the goal. I was obviously at the game as a Fulham fan. It hurt, but he was so good.
Yeah.
He was scary good. And I'm like, they've got to give this lad more. They've got to let him go from here. So obviously, I doubt he's going to get starts, but if you want a bench option for 4.3, I imagine he's going to, especially in games like that, could be featuring.
Yeah, fair. Abu Bakar's like often been top of our mini league, said in the chat earlier, he saw me at the souk one day in Qatar. And he was trying to ask Peter Schmeichel for a picture at the time, so lost me in the crowd. Otherwise, he was going to come over and ask for a selfie. That would have been awesome.
Why did you want a picture with Peter Schmeichel ahead of G?
Right?
Like, that doesn't make any sense.
Love that.
That doesn't make any sense.
But funnily enough, I did have one person come up and say about chasing green arrows, and I had that last time in Qatar, and same again. I'm like, that's awesome. Yeah. What's funny is I was with Jules, and
was it Jules Breach?
I almost had that moment where the guy went, "Jules, can you take a photo of me and Janny?" And then he was like, "Oh my god, that's Jules Breach."
Jules always says she doesn't get recognised much.
Oh mate, she definitely does. I picked her up from the airport, and I was like, she was dressed like, "Please don't recognise me." And she even said, like, the bloke on the seats in front straight away turned around and was like, "Hey, can I? Did you used to present the FPL show?"
That's funny. Yeah, she used to be like, "Oh, I don't really get recognised, especially when I go abroad." I was like, I don't believe that. You probably get recognised more abroad.
Yeah. I don't think she's a fan of being recognised, unlike me. And I'm like, yeah, please. If one person recognised me, that's amazing.
I'm famous.
Yeah. I'm chasing green arrows famous. Michael thinks you might be going for Fred. We'll be revealing all soon. But look, guys, first up, we have to do the KDB Salah comparison. But before that, we're going to be looking at fixtures. So let's introduce FPL tips and chips. Here we go. I'm loving the fact that we go back to a completely new shiny team. Everyone's got unlimited transfers, but also some double game weeks in there. And look, some of those doubles aren't set in stone. I say some of them. The Man City Spurs one, it's dependent on the FA Cup third round replay. So we need I think we need them to avoid draws in that one. So we'll know, I think that happens in a couple of weeks' time. So First up, we know Chelsea have got a double, and with that, Fulham have the double. And we also know, I'm sure there's another double. Can I see it? My eyes can't see it. No, I'm sure there's another double. Let me check it out.
What did you say? There's
Chelsea, Fulham, Man City, Spurs. Oh, and game week 23 is because this doesn't go up to game week 23. There's Arsenal versus Man City.
Okay.
So Arsenal will have a double of Brentford City, and City will have Villa Arsenal. So okay doubles there. Although Arsenal City, of course, is a game that's going to be really difficult to call. But Chelsea and Fulham both with doubles. We like Fulham's is Leicester and Chelsea. No, okay, maybe. And then Chelsea's is Man City at home and then Fulham away. So it's tough for both, but just from appearance points alone, you're on 4. So it feels like an instant return off appearance points if you're getting players that play 90 or 60 plus.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, I mean, Chelsea's looks nice, doesn't it? You just got to hope that they are kind of coming to some form. I don't know at the moment who you definitely want from that team. Who would you completely trust? Say I've got Reece James. I think he might be the only Chelsea player I've got.
Double or triple.
Yeah, and I'd be tempted, but I don't know exactly who by. Like, is it who's playing up front? Like, who's getting the goals and assists? I honestly don't know.
was going to get some game time, and now he's out all season pretty much. So it might be a front three of Sterling, Havertz, Mount. Aubameyang could feature. With Potterbull, it's really hard to predict who that front three is.
Really hard to predict going into that first game, isn't it? So that's the tricky thing with it.
Yeah.
Fulham are high up here.
Yeah, it's good on the fixture ticker with a double and just loads of green. Obviously, capital letters means home games. The only thing that works against Fulham with those is from those first 5, they're 2 homes. They've only got 2 homes, one of which is Chelsea, and Fulham are so good at the Cottage.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a bit skeptical of it. I mean, be wary of Fulham a little bit. Like Crystal Palace, obviously a London derby that could easily go either way. Like Leicester away in green is a bit scary for me because I think Leicester are better than us. Um, might have had a better season so far, but I don't think Fulham are better than Leicester. So these are the things we have to be wary of. You know, we're over a third of the way through the season, but still, like it's pretty early days, isn't it? And the form has been hard to judge because it's been a weird season. Results have been all over the place a little bit. The last few weeks, there's players worrying about the World Cup and stuff, but yeah, I'm still very, very like, well, it'll be Man City that I trust. I still think it'll be Newcastle that I trust. I still think that there'll be the two teams that I just think will continue. I think Newcastle have built something here which has no reason to change. And I guess Liverpool is the bounce back one that I think I start to trust again. I'd veered away from them, and I think that it's probably safe to start trusting them again after the break. Yeah, I do.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. The jury's still out for me on that. We know Diaz is out. Luis Diaz coming into that we thought would be back, and he's had a setback. We know Jota's out till Feb. The front three could still be amazing though, because it's Darwin, Salah, and Bobby just behind them. Or you put Elliot had some good games on the right. But yeah, the Chelsea are getting a lot of love in the chat. I say love; they're getting a lot of attention in the chat. The Chelsea options, the value is good and the fixtures are there. It comes down to, do you, one, trust Potter, and two, do you chase fixtures? And in FPL, I always chase fixtures. And I just can't see past. Yes, they've been bad, but I do think against Bournemouth and Forest, we could see a fair few goals. And look, their XG, something like 12th, 13th ranked this season. They're really low. They don't score many goals. They average about a goal a game in terms of XG. But Kepa is 4.5. If he's fit, and we'll know from the Carabao Cup if he's ready, 4.5 goalkeeper. I think everyone will go there. James, because of the goal threat at 5.8. There's other defenders like Cucurella should be nailed with Chilwell out. Although at left wing back, I think we could see, and he's got Chelsea young player this year last year. Lewis Hall is 4.5. He's a midfielder playing in at left wing back, but we'll get forward. I think Lewis Hall could be a dark horse, definitely one to monitor.
Nice.
And Mason Mount, just to think off the back of the World Cup, I think he'll want to show Southgate and England fans how good he is. He was obviously left out later in the tournament. He's a bit of a flat track bully against weak teams. You'll remember he scored big against the likes of Norwich last season. He's 7.5, and with the opposition in hand, I think from all those front three players, Mount's the one that I'm confident of in terms of starts. Potter loves him, as all managers seem to. So I'm pretty sure I'm going there too. But yeah, I'm definitely going to be going double Chelsea, if not triple. Just because
that's more defensive. That seems a bit more like, even though these are games they should win, there's no forwards there that you're listing that you can rely on. Like you're not picking Sterling, you're not picking Aubameyang, because you know you can get more reliable options from elsewhere, right? So I think if I do get another Chelsea player in, it would probably be a defender or Kepa. That would make the most sense to me looking at those games, because I don't know who's going to be playing up front and actually coming up with the goods.
Yeah, and I should add,
Chelsea probably
there's definitely some bias there on my part. Like, I think I've learned from the game we've just been playing for the last month, from playing the World Cup fantasy. Like, I like picking players based on heart over head, and I did get enjoyment from the fantasy game in the World Cup by going a bit punty, by doubling up on defenders of weaker teams, or by going for those rogue attackers. And I do think with FPL going into what feels like a new season, I'm going to be a little bit more risk averse and just go for the likes of Mason Mount, because I go, it's a punt. He's 7.5. Like, it's a calculated punt. I'm not punting on a 10 million player. I'm punting on a mid-price midfielder who I can easily sell to another asset in the same price band, like a Kulusevski, a Maddison, a Foden. And I'm just chasing those first two fixtures. But I need to see something in the Carabao Cup first. I'm not absolutely set on double or triple Chelsea. I need to see what they look like. I think they've got a friendly and a Carabao Cup game before Boxing Day. So definitely one to monitor.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's it's good that we've at least going to have some matches here in the next week to gauge things by and assess like where we're at. Let's say particularly the Man City v Liverpool game on Thursday. That's the main Carabao one that I've got my eye on. Man United Burnley will be quite a good one as well on Wednesday, just to see what their attack looks like. Particularly, I'm really intrigued to see what life looks like after Ronaldo. Like, I know that he wasn't nailed on in that team anyway, but we need to know like who's going to lead the line. What is the shape here? How's this going to work out?
Yeah, guys, we're going to be showing our teams in the next 10 minutes. We're going to be comparing Salah and KDB with some stats. That's right, some data on chasing green arrows. But first, I just want to touch base on some of these other teams. It's Chelsea and Fulham, we've said. City as well, we like. Having the double boosts them in the fixture ticker. So Spurs too. Liverpool's fixtures, Dean. From the first 5, I think only 2 are at home. From the first 4, only 1 are at home. For that reason, I'm swerving, I think, the double up of Darwin and Salah. Loads are going for that double up. I've seen a lot of drafts on Twitter from the FPL community going both those guys. Knowing how Liverpool were playing before the break, but also knowing that 3 of the 4 are away from home. And look, going to Brighton, Brentford and Villa Park, they're not 3 easy away games. That puts me off going, I'm going to spend 25 million on their attack in 2 players. I think I'm happy with just 1.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, obviously, Anfield has been, their bread and butter and in tough times. So that does make a lot of sense what you're saying. Hadn't really thought about that. The fact that only one of them was at home, so that is interesting for sure. I still just feel that they have to produce now, or their Premier League season is over. If they don't come straight out the traps, like, this is dead. And like, surely they're not going to let that happen. Like, surely we're going to see some sort of bounce back here from Liverpool. They're currently 6th in the league. So even after the fact it's been a miserable season for them, they're 6th in the league. They're 4 points behind Man United, who are in 5th and having a pretty good season. And then Tottenham are in 4th on 29 points, which is like 7 points, I think. Whatever it is. Points ahead of Liverpool. So there's still lots to play for here. And it seems like it's probably dead in terms of getting to the Champions League. It's not. It's absolutely not. If they can come straight out the traps here and start playing well, then this season can open up again for Liverpool. And they should be believing that they can do that, even with the couple of injury blows they've got. They've still got January to put things right. If they need to fill a hole, they can. If they want to sign a midfielder and think that Amrabat can come in and do it, then they can go and do that. If they think that they're worried about Luis Diaz and they can't trust Elliott or Carvalho to step into a forward role when they really need to, then they could look at some of the options out there and find someone, even as a stopgap on loan. They could even go and get João Felix if they really wanted to. They won't. But there are options there. So I don't think that this is total doom and gloom for Liverpool. So I might go the other way. I might gamble on them a little bit.
Yeah. Michael Scott in the chat pointing out that I'm wrong. Chelsea don't have a Carabao Cup tie. Of course they don't. They lost to Man City, but they do have a pre-season. I say pre-season. They do have a friendly against Brentford, which will be behind closed doors. So we'll get to know what happened in that game in terms of selection and performance and goals and assists. No doubt that will still be on camera. So we will get something still coming out of Chelsea. Other teams just to look at in this ticker, Newcastle have been amazing. For some reason, we still don't cover that attack. Like Almiron still isn't in a huge amount of teams I'm seeing, but they're okay in the fixtures. I don't think Leicester's an easy game away. Leeds-ish, Arsenal, Fulham. It's not a great run of fixtures, but they've been great. I think Trippier and Pope probably not in both teams, but I think we'll still see most having one Newcastle defender. But Arsenal are the other team here. Ranked, what are they, 15 on the ticker? West Ham, Brighton, Newcastle, Spurs. It's tough, but I still see them beating West Ham. I still see them beating...
West Ham aren't good this season, so that's a win.
Brighton away isn't easy. Do you reckon, yeah?
I think Brighton, yeah.
And then Newcastle is at home, so you'd expect them to have the edge, but that'll be tough. And then it's the North London derby, but they're tight games to call those, aren't they?
They are tight, yeah, but this is a team that have exceeded all expectations so far and have risen to every challenge in front of them so far. So again, I'm actually not going to doubt this Arsenal team as much as I would have done if we were actually coming into a new season. If you think when we were beginning this year, we looked at it, we were like, Arsenal's fixture list is unbelievable.
Yeah.
So let's see if they can live up to it. And they smashed it. They took advantage of that situation. Now, this is a really tough spell for them. Potentially one of their biggest tests, certainly so far. And this is what they've got to overcome if they genuinely want to still be in that Premier League title race by mid-Jan. They have to come through this not unscathed, but you can't lose 2 of those games basically. So let's
Yep.
see what they can do, because currently got a 5-point gap over Man City. That's pretty significant. That is quite significant, and they just need to make sure that that isn't gone by the time we're like 2 weeks into Jan.
Yeah, yeah. I'm Nuclear Atoms raises a good question. And this is the sole reason why I'm dropping. I own Ben White. I think I'm gonna ditch him. I'll definitely have Arsenal defensive cover in a few weeks' time. But for the start, I think they get 1 clean sheet in those first 4. And with that in mind, I'm okay going without, potentially without any Arsenal, but definitely without Arsenal defence, I think. So there we go. But look, that's the fixture ticker. We'll probably have another little look at some of the other teams that we haven't discussed on Friday's show, but we've got to move on. We've got to have a look at KDB Salah. So let's check out some of these numbers. And look, when I say we're doing some stats, we're doing very top line. As mentioned in the chat, I'm 1974 stats. We don't want those. This is the gut choice channel. Absolutely. And we pride ourselves on this. If you want spreadsheets and data, this probably isn't the pod for you. Black Box says hi. But starts, yeah, they pretty much start every game, these two. KDB, I think, hasn't started one, came on. It's really interesting. We've put in the brackets the expected data next to it. So we can see the overperformance or the underperformance. So with goals, Salah is slightly underperforming, KDB slightly overperforming. But with the assists, when we looked at line 4, Salah should be on 7 assists. He's only got 3. So he's been unlucky, because those at the other end of those assists, your Darwins, have been missing big chances, no doubt. In KDB with his assists, well, he's overperforming, but he's got Haaland on the end of his. So, of course, he's overperforming. So, look, those numbers are healthy. KDB with 12 goal involvement, Salah on 9. Very similar price, very similar ownership. When we see the minutes per attempt and the minutes per chance created, it's what we expect. Salah edges it with shots and goals. KDB massively with chances. But in terms of bonus points, you see a massive swing towards Kevin De Bruyne. You see the moment more goal involvement. For me, the fixtures are better for De Bruyne on Salah. Like, I think there's more home fixtures there for City. Of course, they have a double game week coming up as well. Liverpool don't. The only thing that caveats all of this is season-long data. Salah started the season fairly wide. He ended the mini season we've seen so far down the middle with Darwin in a 2. And when Salah is more central, we see him occupying better positions in better shooting positions, therefore more goals, potentially even more assists with that. So what do you reckon, Dean? Where are you edging? Are you edging towards either of these? Because I haven't seen many good drafts that I love with both. Knowing you've all got Haaland, I think you can probably only have one of these if you want to still have your Reece James and your Cancelos.
Yeah, obviously, like, some people will just put all 3 in. I won't be doing that, and I'll be going towards Salah for now. Half the reason is because I've got Haaland, and I believe I'll be covered well enough. I don't feel like Salah is going to struggle here. I think that he would have really enjoyed assessing like what's gone right as well as wrong in the first half of the season for him, because he's still doing very well. You know, you look at, like, he's the player with the biggest threat in the game in terms of midfielders. He's still in that number 1 spot. So all of the reasons we might have criticised Salah, like, a lot of it was harsh because he was stuck to that flank for so long. And surely we're not going to see that too many times coming in. So I'm counting on the fact we're going to see Salah being able to get in better goal scoring positions from here. If Phil Marshall says it is a coin toss, it kind of is, yeah. But I also really want to cover Liverpool, and I'm not going to go mad on them. So I'm going to have maximum 2 Liverpool players, if the other one's likely to be a defender anyway. So with that in mind, I don't want to be missing out in case Liverpool do get off to an absolute stormer. Like Aston Villa, Leicester, Brentford and Brighton, that can go either way. Like, they could smash all of those teams if they actually live up to the old Liverpool. I know we haven't seen it that much, but it's still there. You can still unlock it, and they've had time to, like, reimagine this. So yeah, I'm back on Salah. He was out of my team for a little while, but I'm getting back on him now, and I'm just going to see how it pans out. I'll be quick to get rid of him again if it's not working out within 3 matches, probably after that Brentford one. If things aren't going well for Liverpool, I'll probably jump off. But I think you got. I am anyway. I'm going Salah.
That Man United Tottenham fixture for De Bruyne is a part of a double game week. So it's Wolves in addition. So effectively here, from what the graphic we're seeing, you'll get an additional Wolves fixture for City, which I think is what swings it for me. I think it's that additional fixture. Salah has had the World... Before we went into the World Cup, I said Salah and Haaland are two of the easiest locks you'll ever have. Both have had the World Cup off. Both are raring to go. Both play for elite teams that score loads of goals, get loads of chances. They're the main men. But I just trust City more than Liverpool. And if I go Salah, I'm definitely going Darwin. I'm set on that. So with that in mind, do I want 25% of my budget in Liverpool attack? Or do I want 25%? Okay, it's slightly higher for City because Haaland, De Bruyne are more expensive than Salah and Darwin-ish. Do I want 25% on City attack? And that's the one I want to go for. Like if I'm backing one of those attacks and I'm backing the ceiling, that Leeds and Everton fixture could be 4-0 City wins. I don't think I see a 3-4 niller in or 3-4 goals in those Liverpool games. I know, as you said, Dean, if they turn it on, and you've got a great point there because they can. But I respect the opposition more that Liverpool face, especially in the first couple of weeks. And if it goes wrong, I can move it come that Chelsea fixture. I can go, oh, Salah's got Brentford and Brighton versus De Bruyne as Chelsea and United and swap them. But for the time being, I think I'm set on De Bruyne, and I think it's looking at some of this data that's helped me. But look, maybe I bottle it and I don't go Darwin and then I do go Salah. But I definitely want one of those Liverpool lads.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I look at De Bruyne's fixtures and I'm like, these is tough. Like the first two, not too bad, but like Chelsea, Man United, Spurs, like
both away Chelsea and United as well.
That's a tough run of games, and like I know, like it shouldn't really matter. It's Kevin De Bruyne, like he's got as much chance of pulling up points in those matches as he has the others because that's the type of player he is, and sometimes he's able to take these things into his own hands. Could be that he gets a pen or whatever if Holland's not on the pitch. So again, that would edge me towards Salah though because he's only really on paper got one difficult game.
Yeah, it's fair. Guys, we're going to be showing our teams. Very excited. We'll answer your questions where we can. But look, let's have a look at our teams and we'll mention Harry Kane on Friday's show. I can see some in the chat saying, why aren't you comparing Kane for that third premium? And yeah, perhaps we should be. But this was just about comparing two midfielders at the same price at similar ownership. Yeah. Harry Kane is definitely worth consideration. And look, there's an argument to say you can go Kane and De Bruyne or Kane and Salah and Haaland, and it just means you don't have those mid-price players, or even both these guys, and then your third forward is bench fodder. Yeah. So yeah, let's move on to our teams. Dean, you've done your team first, but I think we've got a little title sequence we've not seen in a while called Pimp My Team.
The wrong graphic came up. Bunter said, "What we saw KDB's form in the World Cup, which was just rubbish." Well, he was playing for Belgium team that were rubbish. I think that's why. Wouldn't pay too much attention to that. De Bruyne's not going to be playing like that. Anyway, let's get back. Here's my team. Forgot what they look like. Hello, lads. Quite a few of them have survived the cull of winter. This is about half the squad that I've had initially from. Obviously, we've got unlimited transfers at the moment. So there he is up front, Anthony Martial. That is the player that I was talking about earlier that I'm tempted to take a punt on. I don't know that I'm definitely going to yet. But at the moment, I'm thinking like, if it looks like, if Man United play Burnley, I haven't looked majorly into this yet, like Man United's fitness concerns and stuff. But if Martial is playing in that Carabao Cup game, then I'm tempted to go there. I'm tempted to go there because we know that Erik ten Hag is very hot on the idea of Anthony Martial as his centre forward with, Anthony one side and Rashford or Sancho or whoever it was going to be, maybe Garnacho on the other. Sancho obviously won't be involved in that given that he's been given a personal training program for the time being. But so Martial,
You're going to
Might
get
be
loads of
getting
he's going to be injured in the chat. Just want to say before you write that in the chat, when he gets injured, Dean will sell him. Like,
yeah,
not
exactly.
going for players because of their injury record. I get it if you're really low on transfers and you've got loads of fires. But when you can start with a fresh team, players like Martial, you'll have a transfer next week. You won't know where to use it because you're creating a brand new sparkly team with all good players. Players like Martial are worth a punt. Like, I'm going to go Rashford, but I
Yeah,
love the idea of going with a 2% owned Martial if you think you see in the Carabao Cup that he's ready to go. Because, yeah,
yeah,
3 games in a week,
exactly.
he maybe doesn't get them all, but you sell him if he doesn't.
Yeah, exactly that. So we'll see what comes. I mean, Nuclear saying, "Where is Mitrovic? You're a Fulham fan." Nuclear, you've been here pretty much every show. You know, I don't pick Mitrovic for that very reason. I don't need him in my fantasy team. I get to enjoy his goals in real life, and that's good enough for me. So yeah, Callum Wilson, I just feel he's still absolutely fine. That Newcastle core, I'm completely trusting of.
Yeah, you're going
Bernardo, so
big
we're
on
talking.
Newcastle there.
Yes, I've gone big on Newcastle because I still trust them. I still believe what Eddie Howe's building for this season. I think they've still got a chance of making top four. So I'm going with that hunch for now. I've got Salah in there. The reason, obviously, I just explained why I haven't got KDB, but I have got Bernardo still in this team. He was supposed to be a 1 or 2 week hit in about game week 4. He's still here and he survived the dark winter, and he's going to be going into the next run of games. I think I've liked having him in my team. I really have.
He's done well
I've
for
got
you.
a I've got a lot out of him. I really
Outscored
have.
Foden in that time that you've had Bernardo.
Yeah, he has, and his output's been good. And it may not end up being quite what De Bruyne ends up getting, but he's consistent enough in both being picked and actually delivering that I like having him. And I could always rotate him if needed. In the defense, I've got Dalla at the moment. Reece James will probably start that game week. I'll wait and see on Dalot, though, whether might even be tempted to change the setup of the team and go 4 at the back. I'm not sure yet. Bueno, not sure if we're going to be seeing as much of him. We need to figure out how Wolves are lining up. I saw the other day, he did get some game time, but I don't think he
Oh, did he?
started. Yeah, he did get on.
Because I had him for the last couple of weeks before the close, and it was great. He got an assist one week, and he was first choice. But then I was thinking, new manager, we've got no idea. Will Eight Nori come back in? But
Yeah, he
3.9
rotated.
million, if he is a starter, is great to have.
It seemed like he got a look at all of them, basically. But yeah, so we'll keep an eye on that. 3.9, it really doesn't matter. Andreas Pereira, he has survived also, although I'm now tempted by Garnacho now that I threw that, but I guess Pereira definitely starts. So goalkeeper, I don't really know. I mean, I've just put these in as holders for now because they both fit. Emi Martinez, I needed a World Cup winner just to raise morale in the dressing room.
He definitely won't start game at week 19 of FPL, Marshall. That's unlikely, right, Dean?
Yeah. I just wanted him to do celebrate like he did with that glove.
Oh, so good. Of course he did.
So yeah, I mean that's more of it. Martinez is probably not in my team. I've just stuck him in for now because that was the value I had left for a goalkeeper, and I thought why not have a World Cup winner? But yeah, probably be Kepa, to be honest. It'll probably be Kepa.
Same price Martinez as David De Gea, which I think is also. I think Kepa and De Gea are the two we should be considering because
that's interesting. Yeah,
I was surprised. I don't remember De Gea ever being so cheap. And just because Kepa's been flagged and we don't know if he's ready, he's also got Mendy. Should he have a howler? Mendy breathing down his neck. With De Gea, we know he's completely set. But I guess
that's true.
Danny Ward, we can risk Kepa because. You go, oh, I've got a great backup in Danny Ward, who's going to start every game, and Leicester have started keeping cleans.
Yeah, that's true as well. Yeah, that's a good point. I think probably knowing that Chelsea are playing Bournemouth and Nottingham Forest in those 2 games, I'll be more inclined to go towards Kepa. I probably just trust them more. United, especially if Varane and Lisandro potentially aren't back. We'll have to wait and see again, but. If United are putting out a bit of an unfamiliar lineup when they first come back, there's probably more chance that they concede. So, yeah, tough decision to be made there. De Gea is maybe being released.
Not in January.
No, he's certainly not being released at the moment. And I think there's still a chance he signed a contract extension. We'll have to wait and see once we get into Jan what United decide on that. But we will talk about that as the season wears on.
Almiron scored the other day, Luke. He scored in a friendly the other day. He's continued it.
He's got to. Please. I want to see this. Nuclear, no Cancelo as well. Yeah, I don't want Cancelo anymore, to be honest.
He's 7.2 million, I think. He's so expensive.
I'm sick of him.
He's not in my team either.
He did me no favors. I can't believe that many people will still be on him, to be honest. At that money, all he was getting me was
Yes.
yellow cards. Like
It's
it was,
no one's doubting like 7.4 million. He's amazing, but the other City defenders. Look, let's say Carl Walker's fit now, right? Carl
yeah.
Walker's 4.8, and
What?
Cancelo is 7.4.
He's
If they're both going to
4.8.
start for the attacking returns, you'll get Cancelo. Yeah, he'll edge Walker on attacking returns, but the way City are playing this season, Cancelo's attacking outputs massively, massively, massively dipped, and with that, you just go, "I'll cover City defense with 4.8 Carl Walker, thanks."
Yeah, absolutely. Like
Or a
honestly,
Kanji or Stones or whoever you think is nailed to start. I mean, Walker, we don't know if he's nailed to start, but now he's fit. I expect Walker to be playing 8 out of 10 Premier League games.
exactly that. Like I've just, in fact, the game actually that wound me up the most with Cancelo having in my team was ironically against Fulham. When on one hand I'm delighted he's been sent off, and then on the other hand, like I'm like, what is going on here? This guy is not getting me any points ever. I'm just actually looking through the list. He got a big haul against Southampton, got 18 points. Apart from that, it's not been a lot knocking about. There's a couple of double digits earlier on in the season, but honestly, from like game 9 to game 16, like not great to be honest. So
If he was six,
no,
you'd go there, but
100%,
7.4 is
yeah,
huge.
7.4. I'm just not interested in that.
Yeah, when you get other defenders from the same team for almost half the price, feels like half the price. Those millions are precious. Okay, good
Yeah,
team, Dean. I like it. We'll see how many changes you make on Friday's stream. Friday at
yep,
7, we'll be doing this all again, showing our teams just before the deadline, which will be on, of course, ahead of the 26th on Boxing Day. So let's have a look at my team. I've got some of the same players. And this is the first draft I've put together. You'll see Carl Walker makes it. In goal, I've gone with David De Gea. That could easily be Kepa. Again, I want to see if Kepa plays against Brentford. And that Brentford friendly, Chelsea-Brentford, is tomorrow. That's really important to know the fitness levels of Reece James.
yeah.
Kepa, does Ryan Hall play? Does Mason Mount play? I'm going Reece James. He's a lock, even if he's not ready for Bournemouth. I just love the attacking threat you get from him. I'd
Yeah,
expect Cancelo and James to always be around the same price. That shows how expensive Cancelo is at the
yeah,
moment.
true.
Trippier's staying. He's the only Newcastle player I've got, but he's just been too good to sell. 65% ownership. I can't believe it's that high. My budget defender in there is Patterson, but it could be, if I need the 0.1, I'll go to Bueno. That's going to be third sub. I don't expect to need minutes off that guy. The
Yeah,
other option is I've got 1.5 in the bank. I could very easily go, say, Kepa in goal, and then go Dallo and Luke Shaw. I really like the idea of two United defenders or
you're
a
a Man United
goalkeeper and
fan, aren't you,
defender.
mate? You're going Man
I know.
United.
It's just they're so cheap. And I just think they started to keep clean sheets. And I know it's going to be Maguire and Lindelof against Forest. I think I'm okay with that. The attacking threat of Forest and Wolves has been so poor that I just fancy one, if not two clean sheets. Definitely two out of those first three fixtures.
Yeah,
Walker, as I said, is a bit punty. I just don't know. Pep has his flavors of the month. And does he go and play Ake
it is
at left
cheap
back
though,
and
isn't it?
Cancelo? He's so
4.8
cheap.
Walker is very cheap. That
And
is
then,
interesting.
so Akanji's the guy that's been playing every game. So if you look at all the centre backs, Akanji has started every game from game week 8. He is 5.0, so he's really cheap. And then John Stones and Diaz, they've both got a few starts, but not a huge amount. Laporte has been out. Like, Laporte's got 3 starts in the last 4. Before that, he was injured. So it's really hard to go, who's Pep going to pick at centre back? Ake seems to play sort of start 1 in 2, 1 in 3. It's really difficult. If someone told me Akanji, Stones, Diaz, Laporte would play every sort of Cancelo style minutes, I'd just go for that guy. But at the moment, I think I'll risk it with Walker.
Yeah, fair enough. What so with Rashford, is it because you
Oh
see him
yeah,
as value or you're genuinely expectant that we've now got a new Marcus Rashford in our hands?
I think like if ever there was a confidence player, it's Marcus Rashford, and he had such a good World Cup. I think he's fresh enough to still hit the ground running, and I think he sees himself now as back to being one of the main men at Man United. With Ronaldo going again, I think that helps Rashford, not
Yeah.
just on the pitch, but off it too. And I think his confidence and his stock is sky high. Like we've seen the manager speaking about Rashford as sort of the main man, and I think he'll step up to that. And I like the opposition. And he's 6.7, just amazing value. And I'm happy if he plays wide left. If he plays on the right, not so happy. But I do think we'll see a front three of Rashford left, Anthony Wright, and Martial as the number 9. And I think
Yeah.
that works well for Rashford.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it'll be interesting to see. Say they do sign Cody Hakpo in January, like that will change the dynamic and will change how we have to think. But like realistically, that's going to be a month away at least if it does happen. So that will be interesting. Yeah, you've got Rashford over the mighty Almiron. I mean,
Hmm. I
yeah,
could go Andreas to Almiron. I got 1.5 in the bank with this team. Like there's still a lot I
yeah,
could do with it. And the position I'm not set on. So if I look at that midfield, Andreas feels like the best value midfielder at 4.5. Although I do have a sneaky suspicion. I got a bit of stick for tweeting this earlier, but I do have a sneaky suspicion that a 4.5 midfielder to go to could become Chelsea's Lewis Hall. And I don't know if this is club bias, but with no Chilwell, Lewis Hall at left wing back, every time he's played for Chelsea, he looks like the best player on the pitch and he plays
yeah.
super attacking. And I just think 4.5 for a Chelsea wing back that's playing like a wide forward could be a load of fun. But I'll probably go safe with an Andreas. Rashford, I'm set on. De Bruyne, I prefer to Salah, but it'll be one of them. Mount, I'm pretty set on. But Martinelli, as much as I love him, and his ownership's so good, like if he scores, it really hits you. But I don't
Mm.
love the fixtures for Arsenal. And I just wonder if the Gabby Jesus factor is going to, and the World Cup hangover, although you spin the narrative, I've just said those that left in the quarterfinals will be fine. And with Martinelli, I'm wondering about the World Cup hangover. But
Yeah,
I could do a lot. I could buy an 8 million midfielder there. I could go Madison.
you could. I mean, it'd be brave if you didn't have an Arsenal player, the team that's top of the league, to not have a single player from their team. If you take Martinelli out of the picture, going into a period that's really important to them. So I saw somebody earlier saying you're just going to ignore Arsenal's defence. It's a fair point. Like we do have to start showing this team some respect for what they've achieved
Yeah.
so far this season, and I do think they're legit. I'm taking them seriously. I don't actually think they'll beat Man City to winning the league, but I'm taking them seriously as like a top three team at the moment, which is as good as they could ever have hoped for, really. It's amazing, really. You consider the top four right now is Arsenal, Man City, Newcastle, Tottenham. So Man United on the edges, Liverpool almost getting there, and Chelsea down in eighth at the moment. So it's not the sort of look you would be used to. But what do you think about Chelsea? Like, if Chelsea are going to be revitalized, it seems like Mount will be one of those players that is involved and starting every single week. I know people are a bit unsure about his role exactly. They think he's a bit more defensive. I'm not actually convinced about that. I think that Mount could actually be a good purchase.
Yeah, I think Potter still doesn't know where he wants him to play. I saw him come on one game and he looked like he was playing number 9. Like you just don't know with Potter. But the game against Brentford tomorrow, the friendly, is huge. If Chelsea get spanked or look poor, I'll be reluctant to go even double Chelsea. It might just be Reece James.
Mm,
Talking about those defensive numbers, not going without Arsenal would be risky at the back. The defensive numbers, expected goals against them this season so far. Man City are the best, only 9.7 expected goals against them. Arsenal at 10.1. Like almost the best defense in the league. Then you've got Brighton at 12.8, West Ham at 13.3, Newcastle at 13.7. These are the best defenses in the league. I just don't love the fixtures. And I will get an Arsenal defender in. But it probably won't be for another month. So I'm swerving for the time being. But yeah,
yeah.
there's options there. There's loads of options. The front three, I think I
Nice.
am fixed on though. Mitchell, I
Yeah.
want for the double. Haaland,
Yep.
of course, but I really like Darwin. I just think Darwin and Salah are going to have similar output, and I can go Darwin and save myself 3 million. I think three and a
Mm.
half million. I think I'm happy with that.
Fair. Steve, I had Mount in my game week 1 team. He killed my rank. Yeah, well, Mount's one of those players, isn't he? Like you don't know when his hot patch is going to come, but they do come. And like he does go on really hot spells, and you don't want to miss them.
Yeah. Cole asked about Leon Bailey. I've actually still got Bailey in my team. Like these transfers haven't been confirmed yet. And guys, top tip: don't make too many transfers because if at the end of the season you have the same rank as someone else, the same amount of points, it goes down to how many
Does it really?
transfers you've made. So FPL General, for example, last season I think finished just over 10,048. He actually had the same rank as people on 9,999, but didn't get the top 10k because he made more transfers. So I haven't
No.
clicked any of mine out yet, but Leon Bailey is one that I've had forever. He is on 4 yellow cards, and Villa haven't got the best fixtures. That's the only reason I'm put off
Yeah, we also have to bear in mind the way they're going to play Emery and the type of wide players he likes. I'm not sure he's going to be exactly what he wants. He's going after different types of players. So Danjuma is probably going to arrive at Aston Villa, and that tells you that somebody's going to have to give way. I don't know that it is Leon Bailey, but it's going to be someone.
Yeah, I love Danjuma. Guys, Kulusevski is 8 million. Madison is 8.2. I could convert Martinelli to a Kulu or a Mads if I downgraded a little bit elsewhere. So stay tuned for Friday's show, where I'd have spent way more time on my team, and we'll be revealing our teams on Friday. So Friday at 7, we'll be back. We'll answer more questions then. But before you guys go, hopefully you've enjoyed the return of FPL. Make sure you're liking the stream and subscribing. The reason I want you to subscribe and put those notifications on is next week we're going to have streams at loads of different times, and I don't want you to miss them because Mondays and Fridays at 7 is our usual spot, but next week there'll be games on at those times, so we'll probably do something a little bit different. But we will be back on Friday. Dean, it's great to have FPL back, right?
Oh, mate, yeah, this is like a relief to do this show. It feels so more natural, doesn't it? And it's trying to remember everybody's names, both in the chat and the players in the Premier League, is nice to just all feel very, very normal again. But yeah, big week for all of us, bit of tinkering to do. And then Friday, let's lock down our teams.
Love that. Guys, thank you so much for your support. As I say, before you leave, like, subscribe, and comment below as well. We'll see you Friday at 7. But for now, guys, he's been Dean, I've been Janny, and we've been chasing FPL Green Arrows.